Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Don't you want to sound rich?
Welcome everybody to the podcast with a proclivity for positivity. Welcome to All Things Elite. This is our Double or Nothing AEW Double or Nothing 2020 review. I am your host, Floyd Johnson, and with me today, I will be introducing to you Mr. Austin Sumowitz. He is going to be helping on the show. He's going to be a co-host. He's going to be helping me with social media. He's going to be just helping all around. I'm very open about this on the show. I work overnights, so there's stuff that happens during the day with social media and things that I need assistance on. And you'll hear fairly quickly that him being my Ian Riccaboni to my Colt Cabana is going to be great. I will do anything to definitely make the show better, and I think he is a great ad. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate that intro. It means a lot.
Yes, I met Austin. Where did we meet? Did we meet at All In or did we meet at Double or Nothing?
I think either Cindy introduced, because I think you met Cindy first, and then she introduced me to you either at All In, or I saw you guys in line, like all of you guys, like Tiff and everybody in line when we got to StarCast 2, I think.
Okay, yeah.
It was one of those two. I can't fully remember. It's been years.
Yes, so, Austin's a great friend. He used to host a podcast called The Pin Podcast, so he's good at this, and as you can hear, silky smooth voice, come on, and he can bring us in. So he's going to be like the main host for the show while I do my color thing, because I think that is where my strength is. And I was like, to me, it's like, you picked up a first round draft pick here. I was like, you're not doing a podcast right now, really, and I was like, man, I really want Austin on the show. So thank you. And his first show today is Double or Nothing review. We're going to go through the matches. Do you have the card up in front of you, sir?
Oh, you bet I do, man.
Yeah,
and I appreciate the number one draft pick thing. I feel like I'm Joe Burrow all of a sudden. But this is certainly not the Cincinnati Bengals of podcast. This is much higher than that.
Yes. We just like I said, I'm just very excited to get him to the team. I'm looking forward to the first episode, me, you, and Amy, because Amy makes this thing go. She's the positivity in this. She is the light. Sometimes even when I get down, I look to Amy to bring me up. So I'm looking forward to all of us getting on and working together to make the show as good as possible. So let's go into the review.
Yeah, man. I mean, we started off with the buy-in, and we had an opening tag team matchup, which would offer one of the teams a number one contendership, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Yeah, and then it was between Best Friends and Private Party, and opening up with the buy-in. I mean, these two teams are like some of my favorite teams on the roster, especially Best Friends. I'm really glad that this matchup gave a good shout to them, and they got a nice little victory over Private Party to make themselves the new #1 contenders. Because I love Kenny and Hangman. I think they've done so well with the tag titles. I think this has given Hangman like his biggest like support from the fans with his whole just hand me a beer, I'm just going to go get plastered thing he's got going on. And I think it's well deserved because Hangman's one of those guys like they said at the beginning, just like well over a year ago, since Double or Nothing's pretty much the year anniversary of this whole crazy show that's been going on for a year. He was considered their workhorse, and he's proven it like over these years. And even though people were starting off like, I'm not sure, he's shown just how good he is. But despite all that, I'm excited to see an established tag team really go for those tag titles. And Best Friends got a really, really big victory. And also, shout out to Private Party, who hit Crime Times G9 in tribute to Shad Gaspar. Class act, and I mean, considering that awful tragedy, I think that was a really, really nice move that they decided to use that signature move right there.
Absolutely. Really nice for them. Again, the match, let me tell you, I always focus on the positive, and I love Private Party, and I want them to continue to do what they do. But sometimes their spots are a little ambitious. And, they are very athletic, and sometimes other teams can't keep up with them or whatever. And it was this match at times, because of that, became off a little clunky. And I just, again, the only thing that's going to help them out is reps. I think this was they had the match on Dark, but this is really them just getting back into the working groove. So, now with hopefully them being able to be at the shows every week, performing on Dark or the main show every week, they'll get their rhythm back. But you definitely saw the ring rust in this match. The Best Friends look amazing. Best Friends are one of those teams. They have what they do down. You know what you're going to get from the Best Friends. You're going to get the high energy from Chuck. Trent's the straight guy, the strong man of the of it, and he can, he throws in a joke now, but Chuck is the comic relief. When Trent lost the headband, you got to see a little bit more of that personality. He got a little angry because he took off his headband, and almost like Orange Cassidy's sunglasses. So, I just like the little things I saw in this match. If I had another small critique, I would love Private Party. I know they're the fun team, but when they're to work a little stiffer at times, like sometimes their matches to me come off like more of a dance than a fight.
Yeah, I can get that. And I think one of their best bouts was when they ended up upsetting the Young Bucks in the tag tournament. And that showed like when they were really like getting into the seriousness of the match. And I think just because it was a pre-show match, it was a buy-in match, maybe we didn't get to see them work a little bit more stiff just because. But I mean, I felt like they showed at least a little bit of that, just not enough, I think. Yeah. Considering that this was for a #1 contendership.
And that's what I was thinking. If this was just a tag match, under a tag match and a win's important. But this was to get a title shot. And it's just like, I would have liked to see more aggression from them. Like I said, I love the team. I love their spots. I love like the silly string and some of the different moves that they do. But it's just like, I really do want it to come off more like they're in a fight.
And I think they will. I really do think that they're going to get a really good shot. But at this point in time, I truly think that Best Friends are the team that are just, they've been killing it every single week on, whether it be on Dark, whether it be on the main show. They've just been busting their asses on this. And I think the addition of Orange Cassidy has just made people look at them even more, and for good reason. So it's a great win for Best Friends. And I think a match between them and Hangman and Kenny will be one that we should definitely be looking out for.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I'm looking forward to that match. I have been on the whole I want to establish tag team to be the champions kick for a while. I know people are probably tired of hearing that from me.
Yeah, but it's a good idea. I mean, it's definitely something that makes the tag titles feel like tag titles and not just two guys. But I mean, not disregarding Hangman and Kenny though, because the Elite is still a giant team, so makes total sense.
Having a belt on Kenny and elevates the belt because he's
totally.
Kenny, and Hangman is literally one of the hottest acts in wrestling. Period. Like all of wrestling. When he would come down and he'd be drinking a beer, lariat somebody and walked off, I truly think there is nothing cooler on the planet. It's just
Yep. Oh yeah.
It's just my whole thing. This is the best tag team division in the world, and you have all these established tag teams, and you have a makeshift tag team as your champ.
He's definitely one of those guys who really knows how to connect with the audience.
Yeah.
And then moving into the main show, we opened up with the Casino Battle Royale ladder match. I didn't realize that this was actually going to be like a combination of a Battle Royale and a ladder match because they had a timer going to bring everybody in. I was not expecting that because I don't think I've ever seen a ladder match done that way, but it was really interesting too because they kept the mystery opponent a secret for a very long time. We had Orange Cassidy in this match, Luchasaurus, Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian, Kip Sabian, Darby Allin, Joey Janela, who filled in for Phoenix, who sadly was not able to make the show due to an injury. And then the surprise entrant of the match, Brian Cage, with Taz as his manager, which out of everybody that I've heard on Twitter and on social media saying who they thought it was going to be, whether they thought it was going to be a member of FTR, whether they thought it was going to be Drew Gulak or some other people, Brian Cage was one of the last people I expected, but I definitely was surprised because originally when I heard Taz's voice, I'm like, there's no way Taz is jumping in the ring and taking this match. But then I saw Cage and I was like, oh damn, well, looks like AEW's kind of got their Brock Lesnar in a sense because dude's built like a brick shithouse.
Yes. The reason I didn't get Cage because I thought he was injured. He had surgery in January, and he had said it was a torn bicep, and I heard like 8 to 10 months. He had the surgery, posted the pictures from the surgery. No way that I thought he was going to be healed and ready to wrestle by May, and he might have worked us on the length of the injury. Well, obviously he had to, or he's really the Wolverine and has superhuman healing powers. But
something like that.
Yeah, he worked us. So I was trying to guess anybody but him. I mean, his name came up, and I was like, I think he's hurt. Even if somebody listened to the preview, exactly what I said is I think he's hurt. That's why he was never my guess. I'm very happy. I like being surprised in wrestling, so I don't mind it. Taz throwing his hand behind anybody gives them a push. It gives them the rub because Taz is a badass. So let me talk about some extra ways. Taz set up the feud with Darby Allin. Darby Allin was the one climbing when Cage came out. He set up the feud over the last few weeks with that interview with Darby Allin, offering to help him, and Darby Allin's rejected him. He's like, well, he went and found a machine. The second is, I'm telling you, I am very much a subscriber to the Voices of Wrestling flagship, and I listened to their instant reaction, and Joe Lanza gave some cool information that the statement that he made at the beginning of his intro video when he says who's ready for the cage. When Taz switched characters in ECW back in the 90s, it was Paul Heyman says, who can handle the rage? So he literally said the same quote, but he changed it from rage to cage. So that even gave him more of the Taz rub. And of course, he's the freaking machine, Brian Cage. I remember the first time I saw him, I was like, literally one of the most physically impressive humans I've ever seen. He has muscles in places I've never seen. Like, I didn't even know there were places there. So, yeah, I great pickup for AEW. I assumed he was signed, but, Tony said it after the show that he had been signed since January.
Yeah, that's slick, too, all the stuff that you said about Taz and Bryan and Paul Heyman and ECW stuff. That's all really slick. And yeah, I can tell you, a Darby Allin versus Brian Cage match, just a full-on David and Goliath sort of thing right there. That's something I'm totally down to see, because Darby would be one of the guys who would try to pick a fight with somebody that big and still stare him down like he doesn't give a damn. Yeah. And speaking of Darby, that ladder jump with the skateboard, Jesus.
So you will hear about this person's name a lot. My friend Jason. I always bring him up because he's kind of a casual fan. You have to do something to bring him in, right? So he's watching, and he just watches wrestling. When Darby did that, he kind of jumped up and like, damn. And then he's like, that was so unnecessary, but it was so awesome. Yeah, and I was like, well, yeah, that's Darby.
It really is, yeah. And like going down this match too, there was a point where Brian Cage just got buried under a ton of stuff, and then I can't remember who Joey hit it on, but Joey did like a rolling senton onto the pile of garbage that was just laying on top of Brian Cage, and I was just like, he's still under there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But the spot that freaked me out the most was the spot right before the finish where Brian Cage took Darby, laid him on top of a ladder, gorilla pressed it, and then just threw it at another ladder. I thought he was going to die. It was insanity. I was like freaking out when I saw that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my biggest thing was I got to give a shout out to Mr. Jimmy Havoc's suit.
Yes.
Jimmy Havoc was a big part of this match, trying to help Kip Sabian win. But he had on this white suit that was blood splattered. I don't believe that's the first time I've seen him in, but I don't care if it's not the first time. The suit is dope. I've never seen a suit that I more identified the person that's wearing it than that suit. You know what I mean? It's just
if they don't sell that on Shop AEW, that's a crime.
Yes, because that suit says Jimmy Havoc. I mean, I just like, dude, if they just put a shirt with him in that suit on it, I would absolutely buy that shirt.
That would work too.
He took this. Frankie did this like German into the ladder in the corner, and it's just like Jimmy Havoc's freaking nuts. And I dig the dude. Yeah.
Speaking of Frankie, with the haircut that he's got going right now, he's got a slight Randy Orton look to it. Is that just me?
No, I could definitely see it because of how it's kind of the buzz cut with the extra hair top. It does it does have Randy Orton feels to it. Frankie still being able to do what he does at his age is crazy. I'm like, he's not old as far as wrestling, but still, when he did the springboard and jumped onto the ladder with Scorpio, I was like, dude, that was me watching him in the TNA X Division 10. Like, it took me back. I think it's like 15 years ago at this point. It was just Frankie being Frankie, and I love that.
Oh yeah, Frankie's freaking awesome, and so is Scorpio, and those guys went at it too, being both members of SCU, and the match ended up finishing off with Brian Cage winning in his debut to grab that chip hanging over the ring, which gives him a chance to take on the AEW World Champion. So what a statement, immediately coming in and just taking everybody down and then nearly killing Darby Allin and then getting a shot at Jon Moxley or anybody who's the AEW champion at the time.
110% the right decision. This is how you book Brian Cage. He looks different. He is a machine. He's the guy that looks like he does and can still do a shooting star press. This is how you book this guy. They've even already announced the match. If you haven't seen that or heard that in the media scrum, it's going to be Brian Cage versus the winner of the match later at Fyter Fest, and we'll talk about the winner when we get there.
Absolutely. Now, heading into the next match, we had MJF taking on Jungle Boy Jack Perry, which I love Jim Ross. Before we get into the actual match, I love Jim Ross. I don't need him to tell me every 2 seconds that he's Luke Perry's son. I know, Jim Ross. I know. I appreciate your work, but we get it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't know if this is true. I'm going to 100%. I think he hates the Jungle Boy gimmick.
I can understand that.
Yeah, and I think the part of him that I believe Jim Ross thinks we should focus on is the fact that he's Jack Perry, son of Luke Perry. I think he thinks that's the gimmick we should focus on, not Jungle Boy. And when Jim Ross thinks he's right, you're not gonna.
He's right, 100%.
He's gonna go in on what he's doing, and who's gonna tell Jim Ross he doesn't know how to get a person over?
Sure, yeah, and I mean, I get it. He would make a few sarcastic jabs later in the night about stuff that he's not necessarily for, and I mean, like, hey, yeah. I mean, AEW's got variety, so it's like you may not be into everything, but you're gonna find something that you're into. But it seems like Jim Ross just wants him to be Jack Perry.
He just wants him to be Jack Perry, son of Luke Perry, wrestler. That's what he wants to be. The whole Jungle Boy thing, I think he thinks is dumb. Like I said, this is complete speculation. I've not talked to Jim Ross, not heard him say that. I've talked to enough people that you can kind of get the feeling. And then him being a commentator, you see what he focuses on. The whole Jungle Boy side of it, that's like Excalibur, you can do that. You can handle that part of it. But to me, he's just Jack Perry.
Speaking of which, Excalibur is just doing a class act on commentary. He gets like everything across in such a great way. He's by far like just so good, and definitely as a guy who wants to get into pro wrestling commentary, like he's one of those guys I look at. I'm like, he's doing it really, really well.
As we go back to the previous match, that whole Orange Cassidy thing, I think Tony's told him 200 times what the rules are, and he's still ignoring it. I thought that was hilarious. He sold it. You can actually hear annoyance in Excalibur's voice. Like, he's just so good at what he does. I did not do the PWG thing, so this whole Excalibur, like the last year, has been me experiencing Excalibur, and he is clearly one of my favorite guys.
Oh yeah, totally. I can totally get behind that. And this matchup that we had with MJF and Jungle Boy was a lot more technical than I thought it was going to be. They went back and forth with this whole match for a good while, to the point where they were just trading chops with each other and just egging each other on. And it was really well done. MJF doing a great job working on the arm of Jungle Boy. Meanwhile, MJF was just getting beat on and chopped to death in the chest. These guys are doing a really good technical matchup. And for the most part, not 100%, but for the most part, MJF ended up getting the clean pinfall. But he did a lot of stuff leading up to that was very much not clean.
Dude, I love when he bit his arm. His already injured arm, and he's such a dick. But this match, I've always been one of those people that just like, man, it's not about the in-ring work with MJF. I say it all the time. It's not. He's a classic. I always say 80s heel. He's about drawing heat. He's about making you hate him. And I was like, once the match starts, kind of works like a heel. This match was two of the future of AEW, showing you why. They pretty much showed you what everyone sees in them.
Yeah, no, and these guys have proven before how good they are, and especially Jungle Boy proving with his match against Jericho how good he is, and he's just getting another opportunity to do so. Because you may see him as just 1/3 of Jurassic Express, but the guy shows how good he can be as a singles competitor. And MJF, I swear, if there's been one guy who has taken his year or so with AEW and has done everything he can possibly do to make the most of his situation and make the most of every opportunity he gets, it's MJF. You may not like the stuff that he does, and you may think he should go about it in a different way, but I've never seen a guy garner so much attention, garner so much legitimate hate, and garner just praise for his heel work. It's just, I remember literally the first time I really found out about him and leading into All In, and then when we did Pinned at StarCast 1 and we did the podcast movement stage, and he just came up on stage and crashed our show and just talked bad on us, being like, how's it feel to be the worst podcasters in the world? and just buried us and tore us to pieces. And I was like, we were nobodies from Michigan who were sitting on that stage. If it was Busted Open or anybody else, I could have understood him coming up on stage, but he came up on stage to fuck around with us. And that showed that he was really making the most of everything, because there was no need for him to do any of that, but he did. And dude's been killing it every chance he gets with being on Dynamite or being on the pay-per-views. He's done so well.
Yeah, and it showed me something with Jungle Boy. I've never been the highest on Jungle Boy. I am of the opinion he needs to gain a little weight, gain a little muscle to come off as more intimidating. But this match, like I said, I saw the building blocks. I saw what they were talking about, his ability to sell. I've seen and make wrestling make sense. Like, I've seen that spot where MJF lays on him and lands on him with one arm, and he kicks out of the two, and then he turns it into a submission, and he can't hold the submission because his left arm is damaged. Do you know how many times I've seen people get their arm worked on their whole match, and then they do a submission move like there's nothing wrong with their arm? That is not day one selling. That is advanced thinking, as in storytelling, to how you got to an end of the match. The reverse Rana on the apron was amazing. It was just, I could honestly say, I would say this stole the show, but the rest of the show was so amazing, it couldn't steal the show.
Yeah, I was looking through this whole card leading up to this, and I watching back of it too after the show, I was like, I didn't see a bad match on this entire show. And that's considering that we're into a full year, and I don't think AEW's had a bad pay-per-view, and this show didn't have a bad match. I mean, they've been on fire with the stuff that they've been putting out. And big shout out to MJF with the very clutch win that he got. A big shout out to the amazing showing that Jungle Boy showed. And MJF has just proven just how much of staying power he has with just the run he's been on.
Yeah, he definitely. MJF, again, his future might be, a little more coming up a little more quick than anyone else's, because he hasn't lost. He's beaten Cody. He's beaten a person that you would honestly kind of consider on his level or his contemporary, Jungle Boy. He's like, next he has to be looking for a title, whether it's going after the TNT champion, whoever that is, as we talk about that later on, or it's going after the world champion. He's got to be in contention for that with an undefeated record.
Have you seen the video of his WWE Tough Enough submission that he made back when Tough Enough came back with I think it was Stone Cold or something?
Yes,
I can't remember what's. I look at that and I'm like, wow, you passed on that. I cannot believe you did that.
And that's the whole thing. I don't give WWE passes too much, but I have to give them a pass on talent. When you're the when you're the only show in town for like they were for so long, you're getting thousands of submissions. You're gonna miss.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I look at that and I'm like, wow, man.
Yeah.
What could have been?
Yeah, because I think you said Stone Cold came back. Was it like the most recent one where Patrick Clark was a part of it? I believe. I think that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that.
I'm like, look, you got Mandy Rose and you got the Velveteen Dream after that. You hit sometimes. I think Sonya Deville was in that one too.
I think she might have been too. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit sometimes, you miss sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you take ZZ.
Yeah, sometimes you take ZZ. I mean, again, it was a fan vote, so.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, now we move on to finals of the TNT Championship Tournament with Iron Mike Tyson presenting the championship to the winner. We had Cody versus Lance Archer. I know a lot of people were talking on the belt and its design. I know they've also said specifically that because of COVID-19 and everything that's going on, the belt isn't fully completed yet. I've seen images online of what it's supposed to look like when it's finished. It should be having some like gold plating on it to kind of give it a little bit more pop. And I've heard mixed things on it. I personally didn't think it was anything like bad. I didn't think it was a bad title design. But I think considering how much people loved the design of the world title and how it's just such a great looking title, I think they were expecting the same sort of thing for the mid-card title. But either way, I think it still looks better than a lot of other titles on some other promotions.
Yes, so I saw my favorite title one of my favorite titles when I was younger was Arn Anderson's TV title. And this seems to be, an ode to that Arn Anderson's TV title, which is great. I personally would have liked the TNT to be smaller, more understated, maybe at the top, but, where the AEW thing is. But I'm just saying, if TNT is the one that said, hey, we're going to have this belt, this was their idea, they probably didn't want TNT to be in small letters. So you kind of got to do you kind of got to do what the boss says. So they got it that way. The original red and the silver was, again, it to me kind of looked like an indie title at first. And then I saw the concept art with the gold plating. That looks like a belt. That looks like a belt I will buy. I mean, I'll definitely buy it because it's Cody's belt. But if they do replicas, but in the end, I could every complaint originally I could see it. I did not see the comparisons to the 24/7 title because 24/7 title looked like they didn't even try. It was like USA wants us to do a 24/7 title, so we're just gonna put a big 24/7 on the belt and let's go. And it didn't look like they tried. This one, you got it's a Turner Network television belt, and then the houses on the side of the belt are Ted Turner's mansion. Yeah. Come on, that's detail. Who would have thought
detail,
to do that?
That's more detail. That's more detail. Who would have 24/7?
Yeah, who would have thought to do that? It's a Turner belt, so them being on Turner is like the big draw or whatever. So I genuinely like what the belt's going to be at this time. I did not. What we saw last night, I did not like it, but you have to give. It's one of those things you have to give leeway for COVID because they're not making the belts. They hire a belt maker. A lot of materials are scarce right now.
I think once we get to the point where it's finished, I think people will be like, okay, I get it now. I totally get it. And like you said, it is Cody's belt because Cody ended up defeating Lance Archer in the matchup. There were some great spots in this match. My favorites were being when Cody hit that DDT in front of Jake the Snake, and then Lance Archer hit the spine buster in front of Arn. It was those 2 points in the match were really great. Lance was just beating down Cody and just taking him to school for a good majority of the matchup and just showing his strength. The point where he just threw him over the freaking turnbuckle right by the camera. And then I loved the replay that it showed where he threw him over the camera and the turnbuckle. And then the camera looks down and he's just staring at it. He's just giving it the mean mug. And then there was a point in the matchup where Arn Anderson trips up Lance Archer on the top rope. Because of that, he ends up getting thrown out of the match. And then Jake the Snake eventually gets thrown out, but he goes to the back, tries to bring out the snake in the bag, but Mike Tyson wasn't having any of that, takes his shirt off and starts asking for that smoke and being like, I want some of that. Come on, bring it on. You're not getting anywhere near this ring. Jake's like, okay, nope, not going to deal with that. He backs off. Cody ends up hitting Lance with 2 crossroads and gets the pinfall. He becomes the first ever TNT champion and gets the title presented to him by Mike Tyson. It was a really strong matchup, I think.
Yeah, they had me up and excited and scared at first because when Archer initially hit the blackout, I thought they were going to do like a squash finish. I thought, man, Lance Archer is just going to destroy him. And then he beat on him like unmercifully he pretty much controlled 80 to 85% of this match. He beat on him for like 10 to 15 minutes. They had me there because, again, I know Cody's influences, 80s wrestling, the face is going to take, especially in a big man match, the face is going to take most of the offense. and it's going to be more about him surviving than it was. The spot when he hit the DDT popped me. The spine buster popped me again, like it did for you. Yeah, it was just a really good match. And but my favorite spot, it just popped in my head, is when Cody went for the cutter, and he just got pounced. It was just like, yeah. So it made sense because Lance Archer is like, we came in to AEW for Cody. Who would know him and be prepared for his moves better than Lance Archer? I thought that was great. The whole thing where he was trying to walk around the ropes to Jake, that's probably the only part of the match that didn't make sense. I'm pretty sure I can ask Cody, and he could clarify it very quickly. I don't have that contact to ask Cody, but he probably had an idea there, and there's something we were supposed to see. But he was walking over to Jake. I'm like, why would he do that? Because neither one of the managers really got physically involved until Arn Anderson tripped Archer. So I don't know. I really enjoyed the match. I thought this was great. I know a lot of people might not have rated it as high, but I just thought this was the perfect way to do it. If Cody was going to win, I was one of those people that I could see Lance Archer winning. But I jumped up. I was excited. My boy, the first TNT champion, and it was funny. It was bittersweet because it was his first TNT title, and then that second moment that I was supposed to be there kind of punched me in the gut. Yes, I was supposed to be there for the first title. Cody, last year he won it Double or Nothing against Dustin. This year he wins the title first. Man, his Double or Nothing record is pretty good right now.
Yeah, that's his biggest showing he's been given for sure. Besides when he beat the hell out of Sean Spears at All Out. That was a great showing as well.
Yeah.
But I will say, let's not cut on Mike Tyson yawning again. Let's try not to do that again, because I saw that and I started laughing like crazy.
Yes, I did too. I was like, he doesn't have the fans there, the excitement, the energy of it. He's trying to keep it himself, and he's watching a wrestling match. He's probably watched a lot of wrestling matches, and they probably went through what he was going to do all day, and he's probably been up since 8 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, I'm tired,
Yeah, no disrespect too, because he also had one of my favorite moments too when Lance Archer came out and just threw a staff member around the ring and chased him out. Mike was looking at him like, okay, then that's that. I get you. So
yes,
no disrespect for what's all. It was just a mistake cut, and it was a funny little moment. I think it added a little bit character to the show.
Yes, so definitely. And it's real. You're watching the show, you could be into it, but you might not be all the way into it. And it was and this match was, I thought it was well paced, but there were some points in the middle where it was a little plotting, and they caught him at the exact wrong time. I guarantee you, even when in the excitement of a Cody match, at one point you could probably catch me doing the same thing.
Oh, I'm sure that's the same with any fans. And plus, we're talking about the baddest man on the planet. This man has done a lot in his career, so I'm sure he's seen countless fights, countless wrestling matches, so I'm sure it's no disrespect whatsoever, but it was very funny.
Yes, definitely very funny. Cody's the new champ.
Shout out.
Got the belt presented to him by Tyson. I was very excited. I'm very happy. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do going forward.
Yeah, and after that, we had Chris Statlander, who was supposed to take on Britt Baker, DMD, but was not the case. She also suffered an injury and was not able to compete. It was a sucky situation. But Penelope Ford stepped up to take the place and take on Chris Statlander, and had Kip Sabian by her side, albeit on crutches and with braces and all this stuff, looking like a little wimp. And he still was able to get some heel heat in this matchup. And I think Chris Statlander has really proven herself in the last few months being on AEW. She's done really well leading up to this moment, and I think she's been doing really well. Especially, I mean, the gimmick of just you're an alien is an odd one to go with, and an odd one to be given or to have. But I think she's done really, really well with that gimmick, especially. And she's a great athlete. She's done really well. Penelope Ford gets great heel heat and does really well too. I think following up a match like the TNT title match and following Cody and Archer was a tough thing to do, but I think they did a pretty good job at following it up and trying to keep everybody at home entertained. It's obviously hard to gauge because nobody was there, but it was still a solid women's match, and I think it was a great showing for both girls. And Chris Statlander was the one who ended up getting the victory, and a big W for her win-loss record.
Yes, this was a good, like television match, last-minute match. I thought they both looked good. The finish came when she hit her with that on the pile driver. It's like an inverted pile driver. Oh, the Big Bang Theory. Yes.
Yeah, the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, so that's great. I think this is the show that they finally did it. You're going to have criticisms of AEW, and I've always thought over the first year of their pay-per-views that they put the women's match in horrible positions. Like the women's title match in horrible positions. So having a second women's match was great. Like, I love that it was Penelope Ford, Chris Statlander, gives you a chance to come down after Cody winning the title, and it gives you time before that next moment you're supposed to explode. Both women did a great job, but it's kind of what you need. You're going to get highs and lows in the matches, and I know some companies go high, but when you have something emotionally exhausted like a new champion being crowned, sometimes you kind of need a break.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. And it wasn't like a match that was just a throwaway match or anything. Yeah. These two girls did a really good job at still trying to keep the energy up and putting on a really good follow-up matchup. So I think that's a great placement too. And like you said, yeah, the placement of the women's matches for some of the shows was a little questionable, but I think this was a point where for both women's matches, they did a really good job.
And Britt Baker's going to announce on Wednesday her injury length, even though it was spoiled after the show, which I will let you know later in the show.
Sounds good. After that, we had Dustin Rhodes, who was set to take on Shawn Spears, but Shawn showed up talking about he's not even here and was just taking the absolute piss. He played Dustin's entrance. He didn't come out and was just being such a heel. And he's like, all right, ring the bell. And I want the count out victory right now. The bell gets rung and the referee starts counting, but then Dustin's music hits again. He's like, no. We just did this once. We're not doing this 2 times. And then Brandy comes out, starts trash talking towards Shawn, and Shawn's going right back at her. And a great shot of Dustin just walking into the camera view right behind Shawn. Shawn doesn't realize he's there, but then all of a sudden feels the presence of Dustin behind him, slowly turns around, and then Dustin goes after Shawn and just starts beating him down. And this match was more of a little comedy. It especially reminded me of some of William Regal's matches that featured a lot of comedy. And there was a point in the matchup where Shawn's just getting his suit is getting torn apart by Dustin, and to the point where he's pulled down into his underwear. Dustin pulls down his underwear and just shows his full moon to that crowd of a few wrestlers and MMA fighters and personalities and stuff, and just starts smacking it. We then get a shot of the underwear that shows to see Tully Blanchard on his no-no zone, and he's just like, no, don't cut to this. No, and just tries to run away. Dustin quickly able to get the victory, and Shawn just left in his own underwear. It was not what I was expecting, especially considering how Shawn first came into AEW and how the impact he made when he hit Cody with the chair. But despite all that, I think Shawn did a good job of playing the chicken shit heel who just gets caught and then all of a sudden has to try to get out of it, but he's made a fool of. And I think Dustin still showing great stuff, and he's used to doing some funny stuff. I mean, with the whole Goldust character and all that. It was a nice little cleanser before we got into the main 3 matches, the 2 title matches leading into the Stadium Stampede match. So it was a nice little palate cleanser to add a little bit of variety to the show.
This was a palate cleanser. This was something to make you laugh. Like I said, give a little space between the Cody match and what was coming up, coming soon. I think it was great. I think it did its purpose. The whole Tully on Sean Spears thing. I guess, some people didn't think it was funny, but, it was like a way to remind you that Tully is still his manager. But because of COVID, Tully's an older person. He hasn't been able to be at the show in a few months. And they was like, okay, this was a subtle, well, not so subtle reminder that Tully is still Sean Spears' manager.
Yeah, and again, Sean hasn't had a lot of he's been really trying to get into a little bit more of comedy stuff, as you could tell, like the week on Dynamite leading up to Double or Nothing, where he had his Sean Spears news, where he was just digging Dustin and doing some comedy bits and just cutting some promos on him and just making him feel, just bringing him down a peg. And I think this is a good little payoff to that little moment. And I think Dustin's used to a lot of this kind of stuff. So these guys did a really good job, I think, two veterans who did a really good job with this very much palate cleanser matchup leading into our title matches and the main event.
Yeah, and since Dustin took such a big loss that last time, to get him back on the winning ways, that he's somebody that, could win and could be in matches going forward. He could eventually end up being a person that goes for Cody's TNT title. You set him up as a legit contender because he wins.
Yeah, totally. And he should be believable, which I think having some wins under his belt will really help that. Now we have one of the final championship matches of the night. We had the AEW Women's Championship between the champion Nyla Rose and my girl Hikaru Shida. I love Shida so much. She's grown to be one of my favorite women on the roster. I think she's an absolute great worker. I think she's got a great look to her, and I think this matchup showed such great moments for both of these competitors. This match had a lot of great moments. I mean, just the use of the kendo stick was my favorite part of the matchup. Just these two girls beating the heck out of each other. That shot I keep looking back at that kendo shot that was near the end of the matchup where Shida just hits Nyla across like the neck or the head of Nyla Rose, and she just goes down. I'm like, Shida's a killer. She's so good. And she ends up becoming the brand new AEW Women's Champion, which I think is a great call. Nyla's done really well as the first heel to hold that belt. And I think Shida will do really well, with really good stuff with this title. And I'm so happy to see her as the new champion. Definitely a holy Shida moment for sure.
Yeah, her and the knees, and keep hitting the low knees to slowly wear Nyla down. Nyla stayed as her normal monster. I think, I don't know, the first Rio match was really, really good, but this was one of Nyla's best matches in the company to me. It's just like the selling and the gradual, like you keep taking a knee. The outside of the ring work, the fact that this kind of feud started with Nyla Rose hitting Shida in the head with her own kendo stick, and for it to kind of end in the match to kind of end with Shida literally breaking said kendo stick over Nyla's face. That is amazing. I just thought it was perfect storytelling. Again, position of the match, we had just had a lull, so the focus was on Shida. Focus was on Sheila and Nyla and the belt. I think that added to it and added to the excitement. Everybody here was like, oh, are they going Shida? Are they going Shida? And then she hits that last move. and they went with her, and there was, an audible kind of cheer from Shida winning the championship, which is always good because, like I said, I was watching with people that I wouldn't say watch every week, but they were, the match hooked them into Shida, and I thought it was just a really good match.
Also, Shida hit an avalanche Falcon arrow on Nyla Rose from the top rope. Like, what the hell? Like, I saw that and I was completely shocked at that maneuver, and I was just like, God damn, if this doesn't tell people to take Hikaru Shida as a true threat, nothing will, because I think she's just been on fire for the last few weeks, and having the title only makes that run even bigger for her, and I couldn't be more happy for Shida. She's definitely one of my favorite people to tune in to watch on Dynamite.
Yeah, she is freakishly strong for someone that comes off as tiny, and you see her workouts. She's a very much on Instagram and Twitter posting videos, so she's very much in shape. But the fact that she could do that move on Nyla was super cool. And like I said, when it comes down to it, it's a very good next champion for AEW because she's very much can be at the forefront. She's talented across different avenues, so there's going to be different ways for her to draw in fans.
Very true, very true. Now we have what they call part 1 of 2 of their double main events. We have the AEW World Heavyweight Championship match between Jon Moxley and the Exalted One, Brody Lee. So much building up to this matchup. Obviously, the Exalted One has sicked the Dark Order on Jon Moxley, stole the AEW World Championship, and has been just hiding away as Moxley starts taking down members of the Dark Order to get to Brody Lee in this matchup. And my God, they started going after each other like crazy, to the point where Moxley made multiple suicide dives, Jon Moxley was getting thrown around, Brody Lee was getting thrown through the barricade, to the point where Moxley hit a paradigm shift through the stage on the rampway of the Daly's place, and they went through it completely. But these guys were beating each other down, and I think the finish was the right call too, because Moxley ended up putting him in sort of a rear naked choke sleeper hold, and then slowly but surely Brody Lee started to fade. He never tapped out, but he did fade out and passed out, and Jon Moxley was able to retain the title. Jon Moxley's been on a roll since he won the title at Revolution, so I think a lot of people were going into this matchup expecting Moxley to come out on top, but I think it was a really good call to keep Brody Lee looking really well in this matchup, because he had a great showing, and also having him pass out instead of tapping out or taking the pinfall still makes him seem like a tough son of a bitch, which he is. So it was a great showing. I think it was a great, it was a really good matchup, and I think it was Jon Moxley's just proven why he's the hottest thing in AEW for sure.
Absolutely. This was a fight. Like, out of all the matches on the night, this to me most came off like a fight, like a actual, almost New Japan style fight. Very, very stiff, very strong style. They went after each other. Brody Lee was the monster. He kicked out and won in the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
He hit his power bomb, and I didn't know it was. I know he was going to beat him, but Moxley wasn't really even slowing him down until he puts him through the ramp, and then he comes out bloody, still takes another paradigm shift and kicks out, and then he's finally bleeding and gets choked out. It was a great way to protect Brody Lee. I can imagine his promo on Wednesday saying, "I didn't get pinned, I didn't get submitted. If it wasn't for the legal maneuver of putting me through the ramp, you'd be seeing your new champion." If they decide to go that way, Brody Lee's really good, so he's going to go whatever way he's going to go is going to work. But this match, like I said, felt like a fight. It felt like a New Japan G1 fight, and I enjoyed it. It was probably my favorite match of the night.
I would have agreed with you until we get to the matchup that we're about to talk, the second of the double main events and the final matchup of Double or Nothing, the Stadium Stampede match between the Elite and Matt Hardy. versus the Inner Circle. My God, I love this. As a guy who's getting into sports broadcasting, as a guy who loves sports and loves pro wrestling, it was a great mixture of two worlds, and I think they did a really good job of making the most of everything in this matchup. Just the Inner Circle showing up in full football gear and wearing pads and helmets and all this kind of stuff, to Hangman Page showing up and chasing Sammy Guevara with his horse, to the locomotion suplexes by Matt Jackson to Sammy Guevara down 100 yards and spiking his head and having a touchdown dance but getting flagged for it and super kicking the ref, to Jericho disputing a 2 count and challenging the play and going into the replay tent. There was just so many amazing moments in this matchup, and just I was losing it watching this whole thing. It was such an entertaining finish and a great way to just like completely forget about everything that's going on and just watch these talented athletes having a lot of fun. You could tell. I remember Jericho posted that it was one of his favorite matches he's done in the 30 years that he's been a pro wrestler, which is definitely saying something. Such entertaining moments, such creative things done there, and just I had so much fun watching this.
Sammy has been my MVP for the last few months.
Yes!
So it's been, there was a few things that cracked me up. One, after he chased him with the horse, Sammy gets away. Hangman's still looking for him and just decides, F it, I'm going to go have a beer. He just, like, in the middle of this big match, he just decides, I'm going to go have a drink. And then Hager finding him. And then, that whole idea of, are we going to fight or are we going to drink? And they drinked, and then they fought. And then I love the whole dragging him down the bar thing. That's very old school. I love that. I loved,
countless bottles being smashed over Hager's head by Kenny and Hangman.
Yes, I love that Matt Jackson with bad ribs seemingly Northern Light suplex Sammy Guevara the whole length of the field. That was that was cool. The cuts and the edits were great. We got Matt Hardy. We got Matt Hardy V1 now, and we got Broken Matt. And I love that they came up with the Matt facts that Matt Hardy could
breathe underwater for like 400 seconds.
346 seconds was the exact amount of time.
Of course,
I thought that was hilarious. I loved when he said, I'm going to help you with your inflammation, and threw Santana in the ice. Oh, my God. I honestly...
Chair of Wheels showed up again.
Yes. I feel like we could have done a whole review just on that match.
Oh, if you went point by point by that match, you could just find, like, there's something that everybody could have found that was entertaining. I like Jericho getting the line machine just rolled over him by Hangman, and it just gets a line ripped right up his crotch all the way to his face. It was just Matt Hardy posing underwater in the pool, just being like, yeah. And yeah, there was such, and then that amazing moonsault by was it Nick or was it Matt? I can't remember exactly. Off the goalpost.
It was Matt, because he had the wrapped ribs. That's how I remember. That's right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's crazy. Then the finish, dude. The world's largest one-winged angel.
Oh yeah, and leading up to that too, like Sammy's crawling after that Northern Light suplex locomotion, gets hit with a sprinkler. Then round 2 of the golf cart with Matt Hardy and Kenny, he's just like, no, not again. He bolts it this time up the ramp and does, like they said, a Lambo leap, but in Jacksonville. And then, just starts, we had Neo 1, the upgraded Vanguard 1 show up. And then, the biggest one-winged angel you have seen in your lifetime. It was insanity.
Yes, it was crazy because last year, if you were at Double Nothing, the lasting image of the show was, Moxley doing pretty much an attitude adjustment on Kenny off of the chips onto the ground, and that was kind of the lasting image of it. But then in this year, our lasting image is Kenny Omega, jumping off of something large, and he's actually the person on the offensive side of it. So I'm thinking they're going to jump off of a roof next year because it seems to be getting higher. But yeah, it was amazing. It was truly the best thing I've seen in the quarantine. From AEW, to me, I can't compare it. I know some people are. I can't compare it to the Boneyard match because the Boneyard match was really like one-on-one, and it was more shot in a movie style.
I think a lot of people were more comparing it to the Money in the Bank ladder match that happened this year.
Oh,
which I can understand that comparison.
It kicked the Money in the Bank ladder match's ass. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem saying that. I mean, the Money in the Bank ladder match was fun, but in the end, I would have given it a C. Giving it a C. This was an A+. This was, if you considered it a wrestling match, which some people don't, some people do, it was a 5-star match. They did a great job entertaining. I hope this was some people's first time watching AEW, because if I was not a fan, this would make me a fan.
Sure, and it reminds a lot of people of like some of the funniest moments that WWE did before, like where they had Stone Cold and Booker T fighting in a grocery store. It's like these kind of ridiculous insanity moments like is sometimes the most entertaining stuff in pro wrestling. And I think a lot of people like pro wrestling to be just a pure work machine, a pure art form. And I get that argument, but I think to say you watch this and you didn't have a little bit of fun, I think is it's just hard to see. But I mean, if you didn't have fun, I'm sorry to hear that. But this was a ball to watch. I was losing it.
Yes, yeah. You know what? It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it was fun. And then it's like, if you didn't like that, there's a clear stopping point. You could have stopped after the Moxley and Hager match.
There you go.
And there was wrestling up to that, and you could have just stopped. I just thought it was fun. I said on the preview, and I was very clear, on this match, I knew it was going to be like this. And I said, at this point, you should just turn your brain off and choose to enjoy it. Now, if you want to look at, well, this could have happened, and this could have happened, and this could have happened, that's great. This is not the match for it.
No, yeah,
this was just fun.
Exactly, and it's like, the thing is, like, I understand the one of pro wrestling to be the way that you want it to be, but at the same time, considering everything that's going on, I'm glad that pro wrestling is allowing itself to be unbelievably creative during these uncertain times. Whether it be, like you said, the Boneyard match or the Firefly Funhouse match or this amazing Stadium Stampede match, I like it when these guys when pro wrestlers are allowed to be creative, even given the current circumstances. Because if pro wrestling was just match after match after match, like I'm telling you, variety is the spice of life, and AEW is one of those promotions that have really discovered that. If you provide variety in your show, it makes it so much more entertaining, I think. And I just think having match after match after match after match after match can sometimes get a little bit stale, no matter how talented the workers are. So I like the fact that we're getting these different kind of matches nowadays. And I like the fact that all this stuff and like wrestlers are allowed to be really creative and these matches are allowed to be super creative. And I hope even when the world slowly turns back to normal, we don't lose that creativity, because these things have been such fun to watch.
Yeah, and it was in a way, they lost in a way where the Inner Circle was like, that wasn't even a real match, and they can come back and, it doesn't make them look bad at all. But I do have,
absolutely not.
We did have a question for the review. Our boy Jason R, he's Jason R on Twitter. He says, question for podcast: when you record your review of Double or Nothing, which we're doing right now, when fans are allowed back in arenas, how would you feel when attending a pay-per-view and they have a match like a Stadium Stampede or the taped MITV, etc., where it's filmed off location and you're watching in an arena on screen? I'm going to start, and then you can give your answer, because I've actually had more time to think about it. It'll give you a moment or so. I would not like it. If they wanted to start something like pre-taped in the back and then finish in front of us, I would be okay with that. But the reason I'm in the building is because I want to watch wrestling in front of me.
And here's the thing, as somebody, if I'm not mistaken, I think the first Monday Night Raw I went to had that Wyatt compound match between the New Day and the Wyatt family. And I did watch that match on a screen. So as somebody watched that, first of all, that match was just okay, I think, in general. And I think it was just like an okay sort of thing. There wasn't a ton of insanity in there or a ton of creative stuff, I felt like. I think there was a lot more I could give. But at the same time, like, if I would have watched that Stadium Stampede match in the crowd, I still feel like I would have been entertained. Now, granted, I would have loved to see. I think the main reason people say that they would be kind of like not into that was because they want to see those wrestlers in person, which I totally understand that argument. If you want to just see Jericho and the Young Bucks or Matt Hardy and all these guys in front of you in the ring performing in front of you, I totally get that argument. But I would still be entertained with seeing the Funhouse match or seeing the Boneyard match or these kind of matches as long as they're done properly. And I think the matches that we've seen recently have been done very properly. But I totally get the argument, though. But I just think if this match was put on and I was at the show, I still would have found it very entertaining.
Okay, that's cool. Jason, there's your answer from me. Me and Jason, we all go around the country going to shows, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know if I could, I'm sitting there in my seat looking up at a screen. It's just, I don't know how much I would enjoy that. I think this is great I think this was amazing for the know the audience type of thing, and they taped it the night before, and I'm pretty sure, once the Moxley and stuff was over, those people cleared out, Then they could
probably.
Just watch it. Yeah,
to be fair, I heard a lot of chants in the background. Like I remember, I heard H2O and I heard a horse chant.
I'm pretty sure they just added that audio.
Either way.
No, but I'm not. Hey, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, no.
I'm just saying, live in the show, I want to see what's happening in front of me. Like I said, at home, these no fans in the crowd, I am very much okay with that. So
as long as it's kept to one match, I think that's fine. If it's multiple matches, I'm gonna be like, But to be fair, like you take this to a completely different venue. Like you go see Saturday Night Live in person, you'll see certain sketches in front of you, but a lot of the recorded sketches you're gonna watch on a TV. So,
but let me add that this match was 35 minutes long. If
that is
I
true.
was in the crowd, cap at 15. Cap at 15. I would want a hard cap at 15. Or them to say, hey, the last part of this show is going to be on the screen. You can leave if you want. Then if I stay, that's on me. I made the choice.
All right, man. I get your point. I personally, I would have been.
That's
been fine with it.
It's one of those things you have a hard time with because I really enjoyed it. This is one of the best things I've seen all year, if not the best thing. But I'm sitting in the crowd for, wherever I'm at in the section. I paid money to be there, and I'm literally watching a screen. I guess it's like going to the movies. So I guess it's similar to that. But I don't know. At the end of the night, I would probably fall asleep. I've literally been up all day. Probably went to a meet and greet, right? Went and had food before the show. Been screaming my ass off in the show, and now I'm sitting in a chair looking up at a screen. I'm just saying, I'm probably passing out. And somebody was like, man, did you see what happened? I'm like, no, I didn't. And like I said, this is like, I don't know if they're ever going to do this. And if they do, I'll just have to prepare. I have to sleep a little longer, have me a caffeine pill with me or something. But it's just, I just feel like, the days are so long that if you're ending your show with me staring at a screen, it's not going to end the way you want it to for me.
What about the Jacksonville Jaguars mascot? What about that?
Yes.
Can you say that again? Say that slower. I need you to say that slower because I don't think I heard you right.
Yeah, because that was a beautiful, beautiful Judas effect. It was, like I said, it was great. I enjoyed the show. Overall thought, I give it an A. I think, they hit home runs on their pay-per-views. They know, a lot of people are sometimes watching it for the first time. They know what they're doing when it comes to those.
Yeah, and they're doing a really good job keeping the builds going and making sure that these have good payoffs, I think. I didn't look at anything on the card and was like, I'm not sure about that, which, I mean, it's something that can happen in wrestling pay-per-views, but I think you limit those to either, like, one or none, you're doing a good job. And like I said, there wasn't a bad match on the card. I still stand by the fact that I don't think AEW has had a bad pay-per-view in their year of being on the air. So, and that's a good accomplishment for a promotion that's had a lot of eyes on it, a lot of naysayers, a lot of people who are like kind of hoping to see it fail. But I'm very glad to see how well these guys have done under pressure and how well they've been done with this opportunity that they have. And I think they've been seizing every chance that they can get. So shout out goes to everybody at AEW and all the workers and all the wrestlers and all the cameramen who are doing all this and providing us entertainment during this time. It was a lot of fun. I would definitely agree with your rating. I would probably give it around like B+ to an A-.
Yes, definitely. It's one of those things you can tell your friends to check it out because, it's worth the money. It's worth the time. Again, we giving out some news just to add. They announced All Out for September 5th. They didn't say where at all. I noticed on the announcements they did a very good job of not saying where. We found out during the media call that Britt injury was not as bad as originally thought. She did not tear her ACL. She's only going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. And then they announced that the current champion, Jon Moxley, is going to be facing the number one contender, Brian Cage, at Fyter Fest whenever they have it. He even put whenever they have it. They did not specify a date or time. He also let the world know that this Fyter Fest was going to be from the UK. It was going to be AEW's first match from the UK. Because
it sucks so much.
Yeah, because of the virus, they will be they have to do something here. A lot of people assume it's just going to be in Jacksonville. I'm going to wait and see. I'm hoping, they do shows with fans soon because I'm getting the itch. But, yeah, that's the news I got. Ray Phoenix probably could have worked, but Tony made the decision to hold him out as a precaution, basically protecting the wrestlers against themselves. I think that's all the news that came. I do know Mike Tyson. I just saw this on Twitter. Mike Tyson's going to be on Dynamite this week, May 27th. Austin, our first show together. What'd you think, sir?
Oh man, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be helping out and providing my insight that I have on the show. It's been a while since I've been podcasting. I've been on a bit of a hiatus from the podcasting world. So being able to do this with you, a really good friend of mine, it's been a ton of fun. I'm so glad to be back doing this whole thing. And also, big shout out to Sydney, who did the live tweeting for the podcast last night for Double or Nothing. Big shout out goes to her. She had that whole thing locked down, and I'm sure you'll be seeing her on the show in the future.
All right, so let's give the socials like I normally do. We make sure you are following at Social Suplex, at AT Elite Pod. Tiffany is at All Elite Tiffany. Then you got Amy at Phoenix AEW. Again, I tell you always just to follow the podcast account for me because that's where most of my thoughts are coming from. What is yours, Austin?
My Twitter is at SZoomer4. That's SZOOMER4.
And Sydney's is SAZoomer4, right?
Correct.
All right. So, for Austin, this is Floyd telling you, make sure you're telling your friends to tune in to Dynamite every week. Look for the announcements this week. We'll be retweeting it. I thank you for listening to our very quick show. And as a reminder, whether it's homework or school, always do your best to be elite.